Good evening. The Methodist Church in Antigua, in fact, the Methodist Church in the Caribbean, is having a big celebration this year. It's the 250th anniversary of the church in Antigua. And Antigua has been the birthplace of Methodism in the Caribbean. Additionally, the church is also this week convening a meeting. It's the 204th meeting of the Leeward Islands District of the church. We have two members of the church with us this evening, and we're going to be speaking to them about the celebrations and as well as the conference coming up. And also, there's also an ordination to take place as well. So lots of things happening within the Methodist community here in Antigua and Barbuda, and we are happy to have them here with us to discuss that. On my far left is Reverend Dr. Noble Josiah. I understand you just gained your PhD. I want to offer you congratulations on behalf of ACN Television. And he's the superintendent of the Antigua Circuit of the Methodist Church here in Antigua. And next to him, on my immediate left, is Reverend Careen White. She's from Anguilla. She's here for the conference, but also she's to be ordained during the meeting. So both of you, welcome.
Thanks very kindly.
Well, let's start with the big event, the 250th anniversary of the church in Antigua. And we're going to do a little history as we move forward. So tell us about the birth of Methodism in the Caribbean that started here in Antigua and Barbuda.
Okay, the birthplace of Methodism outside of England is Antigua. It started in 1760 with Nathaniel Gilbert. He was the Speaker of the House, parliamentarian, a lawyer, and a planter here in Antigua. His estate, the Gilbert Estate, now known as the Gilbert Ecumenical Center, he came under the influence of John Wesley at first, the founder of Methodism, in an accidental way, a providential way, if you may. His niece brought him a booklet. He was sick and asked her to bring him something. And she brought him this booklet written by John Wesley, An Appeal to Men of Reason and Religion. That was the title of it. And before he could have, asked her to bring something else, she left the room. He read it and was impressed and said, next time I'm in England, I'm going to meet with Reverend John Wesley. That was in 1759. The following year, he went to England, met with John Wesley, and he was converted under Wesley's preaching. Along with him were some of his slaves. In those days, it was customary for planters to take their slaves with them to England and all of that. There were three women in particular, Bessie, Mary Alley, and Sophia Campbell. And they served Methodism well in that even after the death of Nathaniel Gilbert, they continued the work and kept Methodism, going during those dark years or trying years until a missionary would have been sent out. And so that is how it started in the Caribbean and the Americas. Having started in Antigua, people migrated to different islands and took Methodism with them. There came a time in 1786 when Dr. Thomas Coke was sent out by John Wesley to go to Nova Scotia and to bring a missionary to Antigua to be stationed. He was miraculously blown off course by a hurricane in December, 25th of December.
Christmas Day.
Yeah, ended up in Antigua, down at Heritage Key. And if you go down there, you'll see that plaque to his, commemorating his landing in 1786. And the history goes something like that. There was a man at English Harbour by the name of John Baxter. He was a shipwright sent out from England, was a local preacher. And he too contributed to the work. He met the same Thomas Cook I'm talking about. He was going to Christmas morning service, Baxter was, and Thomas Cook was coming from his ship. Thomas Cook was asked to inquire about the same John Baxter when he comes to Antigua. And the very person he asked for John Baxter, John Baxter said, I am he. And they went and they worshipped at Tanner Street, because that was where the first chapel was. That was the first Ebenezer, built around it would have been 1783. That chapel was built. And in 1839, Ebenezer as we know it would have been built. And so that's the second Ebenezer, the second church. And so that is the history of Methodism in Antigua. And from Antigua it moved to St. Kitts and St. Eustatius and the British Virgin Islands. Thomas Cook went on to Jamaica There's a chapel there. I believe you may have gone to Coke Chapel, right at Parade there.
Right,
Kingston, downtown
right,
Kingston.
right.
That church is named after him.
Okay, so the church now is here in Antigua, and you mentioned a number of other islands. Is the Methodist Church, does it have a presence in all the English-speaking territories?
Okay, let me tell you how the Methodist Church is configured. It has 8 districts, and these 8 districts stretch from Panama all the way down to Guyana, from Panama, Costa Rica. And you have Jamaica district, you have Haiti district, and so our hearts go to our brothers and sisters in Haiti. There's South Caribbean district. There is also the Jamaica district. Jamaica is a district by itself.
Okay.
So all told, the Bahamas do. They're British Honduras. There are 8 of them. But Antigua is the headquarters up at Belmont, Scottsdale.
Right.
And so we have a connectional president, the Reverend Dr. George Mulrain, and he, as it were, is the president of the connection.
Okay.
Yes, so Antigua is the headquarters of Methodism.
All right. So now that we've done a little bit of history, we know here in Antigua, Reverend White, you're here for the Leeward Island Conference. Tell us something about this conference that's taking place here in Antigua.
Okay, well, this is a very important mission service that we are going to celebrate come Sunday, 250 years. And it is also a service in which I will be ordained 2 days later. You know, I will be recognized as an ordained minister. So I have been accepted into full connection at last year's conference. And so I will be ordained the 26th of this month. So that's...
And how is the preparation coming on for your ordination? What are some of the steps that leads to ordination?
Okay, first of all...
A candidature.
Yes. Well, first of all, in church, you will be identified as someone who might be capable for ministry. It happens, your minister may identify you or the congregants, and you are put on note. Then after you're put on note, you preach. Then afterwards, if you do well, so to speak, you are put on trial as a local preacher. And that takes some time as you are groomed and nurtured. And if you have sensed a call for ministry, you discuss that with your minister, and then you will apply for as a candidate for full-time ministry or part-time. Yes, so that was what happened. I sensed a call at about 8 years old. You know, I was first at the Church of God of Prophecy, and hearing my Sunday school teacher teaching us about Jesus in the temple at age 12 years old, conversing with the elders and so on. Yes, I decided that, I really wanted to be like Jesus, So at around 8 years old, I said, when I become 12 years old, I want to be like Jesus. But it wasn't until I was about 17 years old that I made that full commitment to give my life to the Lord. And I was very actively involved in the life of the church. And, when I continued to feel a sense for the ordained ministry, I was thinking to myself that the standard may have been too high, and that I would be scrutinized at every point. But then it came home very forcefully when I was doing some exams for local preachers to become a local, fully accredited local preacher. It really dawned on me that this is what the Lord really wants me to do, I need to go to the highways and byways to proclaim the good news of Christ and to care for his people. And I discussed it with my minister at the time, Reverend Conrad Hicks from the United Kingdom. And he and his wife, who was also a minister, who she still is, both of them groomed me into it, and I applied for ministry. And here I am.
Here you are.
Basking in the glory of God.
Okay, so next week is when you will be ordained. Following your ordination, where will you be based?
Well, this conference will decide, where I will be stationed come September. But for now, I am presently stationed in Anguilla. I am a Jamaican.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And my first appointment out of college was to Anguilla.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Reverend Josiah, the conference that is now on, I understand there are a number of important matters that are being dealt with. I wonder if you could share some of the main themes, main subjects to be discussed.
Okay, in terms of discussion at the conference, our conference is basically guided by set agendas. And what happens is that we have a number of committees that look at the business of our church for the year past. We review the work on the mission and evangelism, organizational education. We also have our resource and development committee that deals with financial matters. We have general education as well. And so these, what we call them CAPS, the subcommittees under which our work is discussed. During conference, the committees would make recommendations as to how we're going to conduct Christian stewardship, evangelism, and all of those things. So basically that is what takes place. And what are going to be our approach to ministry. This being our year of celebration, mission seemed to be the emphasis, because we are celebrating 250 years of Methodist mission. And so the question is, how are we going to navigate that? We are guided by a theme, and a people faithful, hopeful, and joyful. Yeah, something like that is a theme I could...
I think it's here, a people faithful, thankful, and purposeful.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that is the connection of the theme.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember the Leeward Island District theme itself.
No.
We come in faith. In faith we come. With joy we celebrate, and with hope we plan. Yeah, I think that is the theme. I'm trying to remember two themes and trying to marry them.
Okay.
And the reason why I make a distinction between the connection and the district is that the district is immediately associated with Antigua, and we're guided by a theme. And the connection, which is more holistic, including the 8th district, they also look to Antigua for that celebration and have a theme. They're going to be meeting in May here in Antigua, and then that is the whole thing.
What are some of the challenges facing the Methodist Church today?
Well, some of the challenges that we're faced with would be materialism, one of those things, and that translates in members not taking the things of God very seriously. It's more important to think about making money and enjoying life, and so that would be the basic challenge. Some persons, skeptical about some of our doctrinal standards and ask questions concerning those. They're influenced by other denominations and all of that. So it's a whole mix of things that would challenge us. And there is a general lapse in terms of discipline. And so we need to get back to that place where we see ourselves as accountable to God and accountable to the church in the way in which we conduct our personal lives as well as our more public life.
Then is the answer to some of these challenges, for instance, you talk about materialism, is that maybe more evangelism in terms of outreach, trying to meet people, trying to be more positive in terms of the message?
Yes, think about it. The way we approach evangelism, we would look at like home and family life, and we get into the family niche. We may look at social issues, Christian social witness. How do we respond to questions that affect people socially? Gambling, homosexuality, matters of that nature. And there's prostitution. Those are social issues. Crime and violence, we'll be interested in that. And of course, we're interested in ecumenism, because we want to have an ecumenical spirit and to embrace the other denominations around us, some of which are part of the Christian councils and other councils, because the Methodists have always been ecumenical in our approach. We stretch out the right hand to whoever, and that is our whole approach. So that would be part of our fostering better relationship with other faith, religious faith, and denominations, etc. We're interested in those things.
What about your membership? Is your membership base one that is, would you call it solid, or is it fluid? Are you attracting more members? I know a number of the established churches say, well, sometimes they're losing membership.
Well, I think we're in that same situation. Our church, some persons may term our church sort of maintenance in that our new membership comes from within our ranks. Persons baptized into the church, confirm into the church, you know, and as the children grow up, they become Methodists. So there isn't the vigorous outreach that you may see in newer churches. And so it's either you're going to lose members or you're going to maintain a balance. Even when we have evangelistic services and persons come forward, we ask the question, what denomination you're from, and we'll refer you back to your denomination. And so there isn't that aggressive, you know, way of evangelizing. And so maybe there needs to be a look into areas where new work. You have some areas where you don't have much churches. You know, I really cannot think of any place in Antigua, because every other place I see a little church, a little tent going up. But maybe that would be the place to do mission and ministry, to the unchurched, and that is how our growth will come about.
Let me return to you, Reverend White, and you're from Jamaica originally, now you're in Anguilla. How has it been for you to, you know, leave your homeland to establish in another Caribbean territory, new culture, new lifestyle? How has it been for you?
Well, it has been a challenge, you know, it has been a challenge to really leave my family. And that was my first time, you know, actually living apart from my family. But I have adjusted quite nicely. The people of Anguilla are so warm, you know, they are very supportive, very loving, and I see them as my family. I said to them at some point, I have mothers here, I have fathers here, I have children here, you know, because I'm so awed by the love and support that I am getting there. So I feel at home, and I am from the rural areas in Jamaica. I'm from the beautiful parish of Portland, you know, so I adjust quite nicely to Anguilla and the climate, you know. So I just feel at home.
Any early challenges that you've had in terms of the church, the work of the church that you've seen in Anguilla?
Yes, you know, trying to balance or manage the church work with my exams, because I was a probationer, doing my probation studies was very difficult, trying to do my field work as a minister and preparing for exams so that I can be ordained, you know, at this point. But that challenge I've overcome by the grace of God, that challenge, and so, you know, I'm really very happy at this point.
Okay, I just want to return again to the 250th anniversary celebrations. I know the activities will be held throughout the year, right? So coming up, I think next Sunday is a service, and then you have other activities planned.
Well, basically, how we have approached it, each congregation in Antigua has been assigned a month. It so happened that the Gilbert's Memorial congregation would have been assigned January, because we would have done that assignment. We knew we were going to have conference, but you know, they had to pick them out, and Gilbert had January. We are presently renovating the sanctuary, the chapel. It was built in 1843, and so it's a complete renovation, and we were hoping to dedicate it, but in the interest and in support of the conference, we have put that off until a later date. And so the month of January has been freed up a bit in terms of activities. Each congregation has its own activities, some of which are still in the planning stage. So we don't have specific. I know in some areas Methodists would have started schools. I know that is the case in Bethesda, in John Hughes, and in Bowlands. And education seems to be their focus. I know in Freetown they are going to be focusing on an evening of music and maybe other opportunities for that musical expression. In Parham, they are concentrating on the arts, drama and dance and song, to express the Methodist faith. So they're doing that, and that is going to be sometime in June. I'm not quite sure how all the months are configured.
Okay.
In February, I know the Baxter Memorial Congregation, they're celebrating English Harbour. The anniversary celebration is on the 28th of February, and so they're going to be doing something in relation to that. And then at Ebenezer here in St. John's, we're hoping to have a boat meet where we are going to invite all the other congregations to come in and to form teams and all of that. All of these events are not meant to be just for the local congregation, but everybody will rally around everybody else, and that is how it's going to be. And so throughout the year we'll have those activities, and then in December, on the 25th of December, we're going to reenact that meeting between Coke and Baxter, 5 o'clock in the morning, when they met for Christmas morning service, and that is when the celebration comes to a close, as it were. It will climax at that time.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Reverend Nobel Josiah, Superintendent of the Methodist Church in Antigua, and Reverend Careen White. She's a Jamaican. She's going to be ordained next week. She's now based in Anguilla and awaiting further word. We'll be speaking with two members from the Methodist Church, and the church is having major celebrations this year. Firstly, the 250th anniversary of Methodism in the Caribbean, and also we have the 204th meeting of the Leeward Island District Conference taking place in Antigua this week. For ACN Television, I'm Everton Barnes. Thank you for watching.
Do you want your business to grow? Do you want to create awareness among people? Do you want to increase your chances of survival in these tough economic times? Then advertise with us. ACN TV works with your budget to provide maximum advertising benefits. Give our sales executive, David Small, a call today. Telephone 561-5766 or 774-3650. Call David Small.
Exceptional quality, state-of-the-art technology, professional service. Sun Printing and Publishing Limited is committed to providing all your color printing needs. From business cards to annual reports, brochures to magazines, we offer a one-stop printing solution. Sun Printing and Publishing Limited, your choice for full color printing.
All right, we are continuing our discussion with members of the Methodist Church, and we have two candidates with us here this evening, and they are candidates for the ministry, and we'll be talking to them about their work and their calling, and also a little bit about the conference now on the 204th meeting of the Methodist Church here, that's meeting in Antigua this week. Firstly, let me introduce, on my far right, he's Mr. Damian Hughes. You're from Antigua?
Anguilla.
You're from Anguilla?
Yes.
And both of you are from Anguilla? Okay. And next to him is Candice Niles. She is from Anguilla. Both are from Anguilla. And they're here for the conference, so we just want to talk to them a little bit. Let's start with you, Mr. Hughes. And tell us about your calling. How is it that you got involved in the work of the Lord, the work of the ministry?
Well, in a nutshell, actually, my call involves an affinity to Antigua. The Reverend Neville Brody. During my confirmation process, just about several months before I left to go off to university, during my one confirmation class, he came and he said, you know, he asked me what I was going to study, and I said I'm going to study political science. And he said to me, you know, Damien, the Spirit is telling me that you ought to be in ministry. And I laughed, because I said to him, you know, Reverend Brody, as you know, politics is my life. My family has been involved in politics. It's the only thing I know. And he repeated the same thing at my confirmation service. And he went a little further, and he said to the congregation, he will go, he will come back, he will be successful at what he does, but he will not be happy. And I never quite understood what that meant until I came back in 2001 from Morehouse College in Atlanta. And I floated around, couldn't get a job, took a job in Guyana with the Commonwealth Youth Program. And, cut a long story short, I went to evangelistic services at Friendship Methodist Church in Guyana, and the rest, as I say, is history. In 2002, I received a note to preach, and we went through the process, Candice and I, along with a few others in Anguilla, sitting several exams, and then we had an accreditation process, and we're at this stage now. And we had our trial services here in Antigua yesterday.
Okay, and how did that go?
Well, unofficially, because we have not been given the official results yet, but unofficially.
How do you feel it went?
I think we both have been well prepared. Okay. We have in Anguilla at present 5 retired ministers, or what we call supernumeraries, and they all have been involved in our preparation, both in terms of our role as local preachers on the island, as well as our preparation for our candidating process. And so, we felt quite comfortable, and even in terms of the responses from the congregation, I preached at Ebenezer. Candice was at Bethesda, and Candice will speak to her experience at Bethesda. But for me, my experience at Ebenezer was a very moving one, and by all accounts, even from the unofficial word from the assessors, which were 3 ministers in active ministry and 3 laypersons, were that the service in general and the sermon was very, very good.
Okay, very well. Ms. Niles, you are also a candidate, and maybe you will share with us your call. How is it that you got into the ministry?
Well, my call was not something that happened just at one instant, but I believe that I had been prepared for some time for this step that I've taken. I grew up in the Methodist Church. My father was a very devout Methodist, and one of my earliest memories is of him taking the family to church, and he would take me, because at that time I was the youngest, on his shoulders, and we really grew up nurtured in the Methodist Church. It was there too that I discovered one of my talents, which is the gift of speaking, and it was at one such event where we had a public speaking competition. One of our Methodist ministers